Well, welcome to our first ever, and maybe our only, virtual extension night and annual meeting. So I appreciate everyone who's taken the time to jump in and join us. This is certainly a different way of doing things, but everything we're doing this year is different. Normally at our annual meeting, we're distributing hard copies of our annual report. And in lieu of having hard copies of it, I've put in the chat box a link, and it is posted on our extension website. So I would encourage you to go check it out at some point in time. There's a lot of pictures in it, so there's some words, but also a lot of pictures. So, you can kind of get a glance of the major accomplishments that we have had this year. And we typically do not go through all of those details at our annual meeting. We focus instead on a program, but we do encourage you to read it. And then if you have questions about it, you can reach out to any one of us or contact the extension office, and Rhonda will know which one of us to funnel the questions to. But we definitely would like to engage in any dialogue about what you read there. If you have questions about it, if it sparks something where you say, hey, could you maybe try this kind of program or that kind of program? Those are the kind of things that we love to get the feedback on, because we're doing everything we can to continue to serve the clients of Perry County in this very unusual time with challenges that COVID is presenting for us. And we're learning a lot from it. We're learning that while none of us wanted to be put in this situation, it has, I think, forced everybody into more technology. And in the future, when we have the choice of when to meet in person and when to meet remotely, we'll be able to make those choices a lot wiser, knowing what works best for a given situation. So thanks for being with us on our journey tonight. So we have a brief business meeting, and I want to first of all recognize our chair, Sarah Miller Duke, who has been with us through one full term and part of a second term, but I guess she's one of the COVID casualties in terms of needing to step away for a while anyway, to focus on some other things with job demands and such. So we definitely appreciate everything that Sarah has done for us. She's been a fabulous extension board member, and hopefully one of these days we'll be able to rejoin us. So thank you, Sarah. And at this point, I want to turn this over to you so you can do the business part of the meeting.
Okay, thank you. And I have enjoyed my time. It's been a real learning experience. I was never a 4-H'er. I'm a small town girl, but not a country girl. I've touched one cow. So all of this has been quite an education for me, and I've really enjoyed my time. But yeah, COVID has definitely had me reevaluating some things, and with job demands, like Kathy said, just feel like right now is a time to step away, but I have enjoyed this time. We have a couple of things to take care of. The first item is election of new board members, and their terms would expire in December of 2023. We have 2 of those, and I'll go through each of those people. We'll need a motion and a second, and then we'll vote, and then I'll go to the second person. The first is Ian Jarbo. So take a motion to bring Ian on board for the board. Anybody can make that. You just have to unmute.
I'll make that motion. This is Connie.
And a second?
I seconded.
Thank you. All those in favor of Ian Jarbo, say aye.
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 Motion carried. Our second person for the term expiring December 2023 is Ginger Peter. Take a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Connie. Second?
I second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 And next up is a re-election of board members for a second term. This term also expiring in December of 2023. Up first is Keith James. Motion.
I make the motion.
Thank you. Second.
Come on, Connie.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. And the second person for re-election, term to expire in December of 2023 is Susie Murdoch. Keith, you might have to come off mute and
I'll make a motion for Susie.
thank you. Connie, you want to
I'll
second?
second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. And now we will acknowledge those that are ending their terms. And Connie, that is you this evening. And like to thank you for serving your 2 terms on the board. Would you like to say anything to?
I've enjoyed it all, learned a lot, but am ready for a little break. So
Thank you. And as that's all that I have on my agenda for this portion of our evening, I am going to turn the controls over to Megan and her program, What to Do When Your Income Drops.
Okay, hello everyone. Bear with me as I share my screen. Can you guys see that? Okay. And forgive me, I will be referring to my notes. We kind of get my notes to pop up, so if I'm looking down, it's not because I don't like you all. Okay, so as Sarah said, my name is Megan Jasperson, and I'm a health and human sciences educator here in Perry and Spencer counties. And tonight, what I'll be doing is addressing how to take control when your income drops. This is a shortened version of a presentation that I originally used during Pick Perry days as their keynote speaker when the pandemic was first starting. And we wanted to share this information with you tonight just to give you a sample of one of the ways that we've continued to provide education to our community, although as Kathy mentioned, it does look a little bit different these days. So this is super casual. Please use your chat box for any questions or issues, or you can feel free to unmute yourselves at any time if you have something to add. So let's go ahead and jump in. Obviously, it's no surprise that the pandemic is having an impact on people's financial situations, and a lot of families are really experiencing a loss of income at this time. And if you're lucky enough that this is not affecting your family's income, perhaps you know and or love somebody who is going through this, and so some of the resources that I'm going to share tonight might be helpful to share with them. And I do just want to start with a caveat that I'm not a financial advisor, but I will be sharing some research-based information tonight with you all, along with some resources to help out. So, okay, so what we're going to be talking about tonight, I have a few learning objectives, is I'll really be addressing how to increase your sense of control over your financial situation. I'll be sharing some information on how to make a budget or a savings plan very briefly. We will be setting priorities, and really trying to differentiate needs versus wants, and then knowing where and how to access community resources, including some of those that are provided by Purdue Extension. Okay, so on your screen, I want you guys to take a look at this chart. In order to set the stage, I want to highlight the unemployment insurance claims made in Indiana in the month of March when this all started. So if you look at the top of this chart, that is the first week of March of this past year, and the total number of claims for unemployment were around 2,200, which is actually down by 21% from the same week of the previous year. But When we jump down and look at the last week of March, following Governor Holcomb's stay-at-home orders, the number of unemployment claims skyrockets to almost 140,000. And if we compare that to the same time last year, this is a jump of 6,700%. That is huge. And so I just wanted to highlight that to show you all that this is not just an issue within our community, but also across the state as folks are trying to figure out how to deal with this. And any loss of income is really likely to create this sense of panic, right? So panic brings increased stress, which robs us of energy and distracts us from problem solving. And it really, I think, goes without saying that you or your loved ones did not choose to have a loss of income. However, you can choose how to respond to it. And so my first message tonight is don't panic, but take control. So this sounds really simple, but how do we start? So first and foremost, I think it's important to acknowledge the circumstances. Be open about what's happening and look for reliable information and resources to guide you, because there is a lot of information out there. And as human beings, we also need to really take into consideration and deal with the feelings that go along with any stressful circumstance. This is weighing really heavy on a lot of folks for a lot of different reasons. And so if you've not already kind of had a pity party or vented about this or just kind of shared that weight with other people, by all means, make sure that you take the time to do so, but just do it in a safe and appropriate way. Be aware of your feelings, identify them, own them, and then just kind of move on. So I think as we talk about feelings, taking control also involves separating out the feelings from the facts. Both of them are really important, and you should know that it's okay to honor both of these, but there are reasons to separate them. And then the final aspect of taking control involves having open and honest communication with not only yourselves, but your loved ones. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in depth in a moment. But as all of this progresses, it's really clear that the pandemic is going to be a significant life event for all of us, regardless of our age or our income status or our situation. And yes, it is unfortunately requiring you or other folks to focus on money management practices, but I think it's important to find that silver lining in all of this, and note that this life experience can kind of help to build some character, and it really provides a unique opportunity to have teachable moments, I think, both within our families and our communities, and ones that can create lifelong healthy behaviors, such as talking openly about money. So I want to pause for a second and ask you all a question. How many of you all grew up in a family where money was talked about between you and your parents or your caregivers? Or was it never talked about? In a lot of families, talking about money can be a really uncomfortable subject or kind of a source of conflict or this kind of secretive thing. But it really is a valuable life skill, and finances are a part of life. So you or those that you love that have experienced a drop in income might need to have some difficult conversations that you haven't had to have in the past. And again, I'm going to reiterate, please know that your family can and should be included in this, including your children. There are age-appropriate ways to include your children in these conversations about family finances. All right, where are we at? So you're not panicking, that's great. You're taking control, also great. Now we need to think about managing your stress. So you're probably thinking, well, I thought this webinar was about managing my finances. Well, it is. However, the health promotion piece of me cannot just let this go, because I'm sure you all realize or have been told that every piece and part of our health is connected in some way or another. So in order to manage your finances, you really just need to start by managing your stress. And so I'm going to give you guys a quick blip about this. It can be really empowering to just recognize that stress and begin to manage it. And remember when I said you might not have chosen for your income to drop, but you do choose how you react to it. Bingo, that's kind of the key point here. When you choose to react to it in a positive way, that's another example of you kind of being able to take control. So stress obviously is a normal part of life. And if your income has dropped, your stress level has probably increased. So this graphic on the screen shows 3 typical physiological changes that the body goes through when it's under stress. Initially, you're going to have this trigger of alarm. This is our fight or flight response, right? And then we react with resistance and then enter into a recovery phase, but we're still kind of on this high alert. And if the stressor is chronic or prolonged, which how many months are we into this now? 7, 8 maybe. So if you're experiencing this prolonged stress because you have a drop in income and it's not dealt with, you're going to enter into this exhaustion phase. And that's essentially like bottoming out. So that's not where we want to be. And it's really well known and documented too that this unmanaged stress can lead to the onset and progression of a variety of physical and mental health conditions. And when I talk about that, I'm talking about heart health issues, high blood pressure, headaches, migraines, depression, back and stomach problems, asthma, fatigue, sleeping difficulties, dependency on alcohol and illicit drugs, which we know is a problem in our community as well, and a weakened immune system. I could go on and on and on. The list could be really extensive. So obviously we don't want this to happen. So it's really important to think about how do we maintain our stress on the lower or the middle end of this graphic. So what do? Let's talk about managing your well-being for a minute. This can be, again, a whole nother presentation in itself, but I want to take a quick second to make a few highlights and also acknowledge that there's no easy answers or quick fixes to this. But what research does show us is that the following really does help. Number 1 is to keep yourself occupied, active, and involved. Yes, we have to practice social distancing. We've been doing this for a while. We kind of got a little lax and now cases are spiking again, right? But that does not necessarily mean that we need to be socially isolated. This is a great example tonight. You're connecting with other people without even leaving the comfort of your house. And if you're out of work or working less, instead of worrying, try to make a schedule for yourself and just kind of stick to a routine. That will definitely help you feel better. Moving on to the next point, good nutrition and exercise is so important. So why? Well, I first want to point out, we're talking about a drop in income, but maintaining good nutrition does not necessarily have to cost more. If you do things like plan ahead and meal prep, avoid convenience food, eat out less, it not only is going to save you money, but it's going to provide better nutrition for you and your family. And then again, it could be a whole nother presentation of the benefits of exercise and physical activity. But a couple things that it does is it reduces that tension, helps your self-esteem and mood, and it can really be just a natural stress relief. So try and make sure you're sticking to your guns on good nutrition and exercise. And then finally, maintaining a positive attitude and reframing negative thoughts is really important. Our mental messaging is so powerful. When you get to the point where these negative thoughts are entering your mind, you can actually manage that stress reaction by reframing your thoughts into a positive statement. And like I said, kind of looking for that silver lining. So right now I want you to just kind of sit back for a second and simmer on a thought that's been running through your mind that is negative. This could be either related to your current financial situation, or if that's not necessarily the boat that you're in, think about some other negative thought that kind of plagues you that maybe you thought of today or in the past little bit. It might be something like, I don't have enough money to go out to eat, or I have no idea what I'm going to do about Christmas presents this year, or something more serious such as I don't have enough money in my checking account to pay the utility bills. These are all things that our brain just automatically clocks as negative, but think about how you could reframe that situation or that phrase and put it into a positive thought. And this really all goes back to taking control by choosing how to respond to what is happening. Okay, so I'm going to set that health promotion piece aside. Enough about our feelings. I want to look at some of the facts and take a little bit more intellectual approach to making your plan when your income drops. So the dreaded question, what is your net worth? You need to know the answer to this before you can make an appropriate plan. Some of us might be feeling like the guy in our comic strip here. He's digging through his pockets and he puts all the money that he owns on the counter. He says, I have a net worth of $2.45. And then his dog says, you probably should have told me that before I ordered a pizza, right? So this just is a silly illustration to drive home the important point that not only do you need to know how much money you have, but so do the people who are doing the spending of your money, okay? And if your income has recently decreased, you might be worried about how you're going to have enough money to pay for all of your expenses, but remember, we're not panicking, right? It doesn't help. So what will help is to first figure out where you're at. So first, what we need to do is determine what your net worth is. And this is essentially your assets minus your liabilities. So your net assets is what you own. This includes a couple different things. Your liquid assets, such as any cash that you have, checkings and savings accounts, money market accounts, certificates of deposit, cash value life insurance, anything like that. Then you have your marketable assets. These include things like your stocks, mutual funds, savings, and other bonds. And then you have what is called your non-marketable assets. And these are our individual retirement accounts, values of any current pensions that you might have, or even money that other folks owe you for whatever reason. And then finally, you have your personal assets. So this would include things like the market value of your home and any other real estate that you have, the value of any vehicles or boats or RVs or furniture and appliance. So that's your assets, what you own. Let's look at liabilities. This is your debt. This is what you owe. So what does this include? Things like your mortgage, your home equity loans, a vehicle or any other loans similar to that. You have your credit and your charge account balances, any current unpaid bills or other debts. So when you subtract your total liabilities from your total assets, the balance is your net worth. So once you know that, it's a good idea to take it a step further and update or create your spending savings plan, or AKA your budget. So let's take a look at that. How do you figure all of this out? Now more than ever is really a realistic time to look at your financial situation and develop a budget. So here's my next question. Do you have one? Do you have a budget? If so, and you just experienced a drop in income, you're going to need to pull it out and redo it. If you don't have one, don't feel shame. You're not alone. A recent survey conducted by US Bank said that only 41% of Americans actually follow a budget. So if you're in the camp of no budget, don't feel bad. However, now is a great time to reevaluate that and create one. And tonight I'm going to share a sample spending plan worksheet that comes from our Where Does Your Money Go program that, and we'll talk through that worksheet in a moment. Our Where Does Your Money Go program is a basic financial program for adults. So I can talk about that a little bit more in depth at the end of the program if anybody has questions about that. I do have a link for the fillable template. It is on the slide at the bottom, and I think maybe Sarah can throw that in the chat box for us as well in case you guys want to click on that. And we really have this template because making a budget can be hard, right? It's really important too. We talked about including your kids in the conversation, but if you have a spouse or a partner, you need to get them on board and talk through this and do it together. You know, it's a family matter, and dealing with it openly is a great way to teach your kids and your spouse that it's okay to talk about money. So when you're creating your budget, here's what we need to consider. Number one is to figure out how much you can spend. So what's actually coming in with all of those assets? What do you have? Number two is to look at how much are you actually spending? So what's going out? And you guys, if you've never sat down and done a budget or tracked your spending, I think you might be really surprised at what I like to call the spending leaks that exist in your budget. $5 at Starbucks here, $2 at your kid's concession stand there, they really do add up. So if you've never taken the time to really track every dollar, I would really encourage that. And then finally, it's important to explore ways to increase your income or decrease your expenses if you're at a point where the numbers just aren't adding up. Can you eat out less? Can you cut down on online shopping, which I know is a hard ask right before Christmas? But are there other areas that maybe you are saving in on the pandemic? For example, gas money or avoiding some extra trips that you might have normally made. So think about where can you increase your income or decrease your expenses. And we also need to differentiate and address needs versus wants. I could spend an entire session talking about just this, and a lot of people have varying opinions on what they consider needs. But the bottom line is this: you should always ask yourself before you make a purchase, do I need this or do I want it? And if you want it, but you choose not to purchase it, that's another way that you can take control of some of this income stuff that's going on. Okay, so let's hop to our spending savings plan worksheet. And this is really a great tool to help you think through your income and all of your expenses to give you a better idea of where your money's going if you've not tracked those dollars before. And I like this one because it's laid out in a really simple format and it might help you think through some possible adjustments. Now, this tool is intended for you to use on your own at the conclusion of our session today or share with somebody who might be able to utilize it. But I do want to take a quick look at it so you know what's in it and how it's laid out. The first section of our template will help you account for all sources of income that you have, which goes beyond just your paycheck, by the way. So some other things that might be coming in include child support, unemployment, and food stamps. These are a few examples of other sources that can count for income. Then you take a look at expenses, and our template addresses regular expenses such as housing payments, utilities, phone bills, any kind of support payment that you might be giving, credit cards, things like that. And then it addresses some occasional expenses that you might have, such as birthday party gifts or oil changes, car expenses, things like that. And then the final part talks about expenses that you have some control over that you might be able to adjust. So finally, it just kind of leads you through a calculation of your summary based on your income and expenses. And obviously, if you're in the negative, you probably already know that, but adjustments will need to be made. So that's a great tool that comes from one of our programs that I wanted to highlight. And a lot of you might be thinking in the back of your minds, okay, a budget is great, but what about debt collectors? My bills are not stopping. This is a valid concern, so we need to address it. If the pandemic has impacted your ability or someone else's ability to pay creditors, then you should contact those creditors as soon as possible to avoid damaging your credit history or making it worse. Contact your creditors before they contact you. Why? Tell them you can't make the payment and ask if they will work with you to help create some kind of a plan to pay the bill. Most creditors do have a coronavirus relief plan that's available to help consumers get back on their feet. A lot are offering grace and different options during this time. Relief for things such as mortgages, student loans, and utilities and credit cards have been announced throughout this mess. But you do have to be proactive and ask. Don't assume that they're going to come forth and tell you about it. So how do we prioritize? If you don't have enough money to pay the bills, bills should be paid back based on what will happen if you don't pay them back, right? Things to consider include, is the loan secured by property, your car, or other assets that you have? How much interest are you paying on that loan? What will happen if you don't pay it back on time? Is there a penalty? Will your utilities be cut off? What's the severity of that? And I do want to drive home the point that you are still legally obligated to pay all of your creditors. Just because they have a relief plan doesn't mean that your bills are going to go away. You're still going to owe them that money, and you're eventually going to have to pay it back. But if right now is not the time, then ask about those relief plans. Some examples of debts that you might want to pay back first, obviously your housing or any loan for which your home has been used as collateral. Then your utilities, you want to keep the lights on, you want to keep the water running, that's important, and a roof over your head. Car loans, if you have one of those, it's tough to get around without one. It's tough to get around without a car, so that should be a priority. And then a little bit lower on the list are credit cards and other unsecured debts, student loan debts, and then installment loans on household goods and items such as that. Most of us do have some sort of debt, and what to do with which ones will really depend on your lenders and their terms. And if you don't have one already, I would highly encourage you to make a list of all your debt and figure out what are the terms of each loan. And then make sure you have accurate contact information if the need does arise to reach out to some of your lenders to have these conversations. And then it's important to put in this plug too. I think in a time where people are struggling, scammers unfortunately like to take advantage of folks. And so you really need to be aware of that. If somebody approaches you about debt relief and it seems too good to be true, it's probably a scam. And if you're not sure, you can check with the current scam and fraud alerts by just visiting, if you Google the Indiana Attorney General's website, that'll pop up and they'll have a list there. Or you can also consult a trusted financial advisor if you have somebody like that you speak with. And we do have some information related to this on our resource list that we'll provide at the end of the presentation tonight. All right, speaking of resources, now is the time to access resources that you might have at your disposal if you are struggling. These could exist in a variety of places. They might be within your family and your social network, within your community or your church or other organizations that you're a part of. It is okay to ask for help. It is important to note that needs are going to vary from person to person and family to family. For example, you might just need assistance further navigating a budget, which I can help you with. Or you might need a little bit more in-depth help for more serious issues. It's all okay. These are unprecedented times, so don't be afraid to ask for help. And let's jump to some places that we can get help. So I said I was going to highlight a few of our Purdue Extension resources. I want to just give a quick shout out to our Community Wellness Coordinator, Erin Meyer, and our Nutrition Education Program, Danica Williams. They are doing awesome things within our community, and I just want to give a quick highlight. The program that Danica runs is called our Nutrition Education Program, and they are now providing free and fun virtual or in-person lessons to anybody with limited resources. And this is happening right here in our community. Danica has tons of information on how to stretch out your food dollars and get dinner on the table quickly on those crazy busy nights, and how to increase physical activity, which ties back into that stress that I was talking about earlier, and handling food safely at home. And then I'm going to share some resources with you tonight, but her and Erin are like the true community resource gurus. And so if you guys are interested in learning more, definitely reach out to them. And you can sign up for any of Danica's programs at that website. It's eatgathergo.org/free programs. Or you can contact Danica directly. Her email is listed there. And then I just want to spotlight the awesome things that Erin has been doing behind the scenes as well with our Farmers to Families food box distribution. If you guys haven't heard about this or aren't aware, Erin has kind of been the mastermind or a big part of orchestrating getting I don't know how many pounds of produce on the tables of local folks, but it's a lot and it's impressive. And so these are just a few ways that Purdue Extension has continued to contribute to our community during these times. So pat them on the back next time you see them or give them a virtual high five. Okay, so next slide, the resource list that I wanted to share with you is full of information on various things. And the link at the top of this slide will allow you to access our resource handout, and we can place this in the chat box as well. This includes a range of general resources, such as how to apply for unemployment and SNAP benefits, down to Medicaid and legal assistance, as well as 211. That's just a really general resource guide for pretty much anything that you might need available in our community. Those financial programs that I mentioned, Where Does Your Money Go? That is a financial literacy program for adults, and Captain Cash is also something that I do in our community for our kiddos, typically in the 3rd grade. It's teaching them basic money management skills with the idea that they will then in turn go home and share some of that information with their parents. And we also have some other fact sheets from Purdue Extension that go into some of this information more in depth that I talked about tonight. And I also want to bring to your guys' attention, if you do not know about this, is that Purdue has a new program called Fast Start, and it allows any Indiana high school student to earn up to a full year of credit completely free by taking online courses. So if you have high school students who are interested in higher education, or maybe grandkids, or somebody in your community that you know that might benefit from that, I would really encourage you to check out our Fast Start program. It's a really great way to make Purdue an affordable option. And I do want to highlight one more local resource, and I gave Joan Hess her own slide because she is like a wealth of knowledge and information in our community and has connections all over for whatever folks need. She's the director of Catholic Charities, at least for the time being. I think she has a pending retirement coming soon, but she is awesome. So if you or anybody else are struggling with additional needs and need some help within our community, reach out to Joan and she can get you hooked up with some resources and whatever else it is that you need. Okay, so on a final note, a few things I want to reiterate is not to panic, but be prepared. Take this information that I presented tonight and decide what works for you, share it with folks that might need it, and make a plan. Again, your attitude, not just financially, but in everything, goes such a long way. Be patient and humble, but also try to really remain positive and find that silver lining. The pandemic is not going to last forever, despite what we might feel like. And your financial hardships don't have to either. I would encourage you to use this time as an opportunity to set yourself up for financial success down the road. And much of the information shared today came from that fact sheet that I mentioned in the previous slide that was put together by Extension HHS educators. And I also spoke a little bit about managing stress. I wanted to share one more opportunity with you guys. We have our area HHS educators have been putting together we're at the tail end of a 3-month webinar series that has been really well received by the community, and dealing with everything from managing stress and finances to eating better and getting more exercise. And you can see, I think we'll still have 2 left that you could catch, one on time management and another one on beating the holiday blues. So I would encourage you guys to register for that. And we will be doing an additional 3-month series beginning in January. So keep your eyes peeled for information on that. Okay, and with that said, that wraps up my presentation. So I will open the floor if anybody has questions at this time. And if not, we can move on to the next piece.
This is Connie, and I was just curious, is this presentation going to be available that other people can watch it if they weren't able to do it this evening?
We are recording this. And Kathy, this can be shared out with others as needed, correct?
Yes, I think we can post it on our website, which is kind of a general synopsis, and then put the link to this recording, and that way it's accessible to anybody. We definitely want this information out there. And I would also say, if you know of someone who wasn't able to participate tonight, but they maybe would like to see a program, I would encourage them to reach out to Megan, and she'll be happy to help.
And Connie, like I said, this is just a snippet of the presentation that I did for Pick Perry Days, and I also have that recording. So if you have anybody in mind that might be interested in looking at an expanded version of this, I also have that available.
Okay, that's great. I really enjoyed it. It was very good.
Thank you.
If I can say one thing, first, thank you, Megan. All that information, we all need to hear it. This has been a really difficult 7 months, but I wanted to also echo something you said to Aaron and the incredible work that you guys have done with the food boxes and what an impact that has had for so many people. I know some family members of mine have gotten produce and things, and it's really helped people out, and just seeing the community come together to get that massive project organized and distributed has been so great to see.
Thank you for that compliment. We do have 3 more upcoming food distributions. One at Cannleton next Friday, one at Ivy Tech on December 1st, which is a Tuesday, and one on Friday, December 18th at Cannleton. So we'll be putting information out to the public, but be sure to spread the word.
Those will come at perfect times with the holidays coming up. Anybody else have any questions or comments or anything else? Are we finished? I have my agenda, but that was the end of it. So, but I don't want to step on anybody's toes if I'm missing something. Anybody that wanted to say anything?
I don't have anything else other than to thank everyone for participating tonight. And I know this is unusual, but we really appreciate you taking the extra step to connect.
Thank you again for welcoming me to the board and to this program. And I've learned a lot, and look forward to seeing everything as you all move forward.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Connie, for your service. And do stay connected. And if there's anything that we can do in terms of helping you, you know the kind of services that we provide.